I get it, you're standing in the kitchen, eyeing the stack of deli meats you just bought, and you're thinking, do I really need a slicer this big? Is it worth the space and the money? I've been there, and I've also watched a lot of friends wrestle with the same question before they finally pulled the trigger on a professional-grade machine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I want to do is walk through exactly what it's like to live with a 12-inch gravity-feed slicer, so you can decide if it's the right fit for your setup before you spend a chunk of cash. First off, the Berkel 827E Plus isn't a kitchen gadget you slip into a drawer. It's a countertop-mounted workstation that's built for volume. The 12-inch knife means you can slice a full-size roast, a wheel of cheese, or a block of ham in one pass, and the gravity feed system does the heavy lifting. The meat or cheese sits on a carrier, you tilt it just enough, and the product slides down onto the blade while the thickness knob does the rest. In a real-world deli or a bustling home party, that translates to consistent slices without you having to manually push the product each time. The first time I set it up for a family barbecue, I was amazed at how quickly I could get uniform, thin pork belly strips for tacos, something that would have taken me 10 minutes with a regular knife. Now, the setup is where the hidden trade-offs start to appear. The slicer needs a sturdy, flat surface, think a commercial-grade countertop or a dedicated workbench. If you try to mount it on a kitchen island that flexes, you'll notice wobble in the carriage, and the slices won't be as even. You also need a dedicated power outlet, because the motor draws enough juice that plugging it into a shared strip can trip a breaker during a busy prep session. The unit comes pre-assembled, but you'll still spend a few minutes leveling the base and attaching the safety guard. It's not rocket science, but it's definitely a step beyond just plug it in and go. Once it's running, the real value shines through in the day-to-day use. The thickness adjustment knob is smooth and holds its setting even when you're feeding a hefty piece of roast. That means you can dial in 1 mm for ultra-thin carpaccio or bump it up to 5 mm for sandwich-ready ham without recalibrating between cuts. The gravity feed does the work of moving the product, so you're not wrestling a heavy slab across the blade. For anyone who slices more than a few pounds a day, that reduction in manual effort cuts fatigue and speeds up service. I've seen small sandwich shops double their output simply because the slicer keeps the line moving while the staff focuses on assembling orders. On the flip side, the machine does have practical weaknesses that show up once you own it. Cleaning the blade and carriage takes a bit of time. You have to disassemble the feed tray, wipe down the blade with a proper cleaner, and then reassemble, something that can't be rushed if you want to maintain sharpness and hygiene. Speaking of sharpness, the 12-inch knife is a high-grade stainless steel, but it will dull over months of heavy use, especially if you're cutting through bone-in meat or very hard cheeses. Resharpening isn't something you can do at home without the right equipment. You'll need a professional service, which adds a recurring cost that isn't obvious at first glance. Safety is another consideration. The guard is solid, but you still need to be disciplined about keeping fingers clear of the blade and using the provided pushrod. In a busy environment, it's easy to get complacent, so the slicer is best suited for users who are comfortable with a little routine safety protocol. If you're the kind of person who forgets to turn off appliances after use, you might want to think twice. So who should actually buy the Berkel 827E Plus? If you run a deli, a small restaurant, a catering operation, or you're the go-to host for large gatherings, and you find yourself slicing large quantities of meat, cheese, or even vegetables on a regular basis, this slicer will pay for itself in time saved and consistency. It also makes sense for serious home chefs who want to experiment with charcuterie boards, smoked salmon, or homemade point anything that benefits from uniform slices that look professional. The value isn't just in the blade size, it's in the reduction of waste. When you can set the thickness precisely, you avoid trimming off excess that ends up in the trash. Conversely, if you're a casual cook who only slices a loaf of bread or the occasional ham for a sandwich, you're probably better off with a smaller, manual slicer or even a sharp chef's knife. The footprint of the BER